Good day everyone, so hope you're doing really well. We're going to compare Kazuha versus Xilonen in today's video. But just like the flying Mulani on a shark here, there are a couple of things that I really need to explain to make sure that you understand what you're looking at on the screen. So first of all, I'm using Citron as my main DPS. Why am I using Citron? Because it really doesn't matter. The same principles will apply to different teams, and that is really what I want you to focus on. Not the units that I'm specifically using, but rather the principles behind a character like Xilonen versus a character like Kazuha. I think some of those differences will stand out very, very clearly. And second of all, I do need to caveat today's showcases by saying that I've got Xilonen and her weapon at R1 and I've got her at C2, whereas my Kazuha's got a 4-star weapon and he's at C0. Unfortunately, Kazuha is not a waifu character, and hence I've got personally no real incentive to go for more constellations. Hence, Xilonen is gonna do better than Kazuha, so just keep that in the back of your mind. Alright, so enough stalling, let's get into the Abyss showcases. Obviously HP card. We're gonna start off here with a quick animation cancel with C6 Arena. What we want to do now is quickly just swirl here at a distance, and I want to position carefully, because if I don't do this with Citron, then she might point in the wrong direction and you can actually lose time because the one enemy will activate his Pyro Aura. So that's just a little subtlety when you want to go and beat the Abyss fast that you need to be aware of. Right, so here on the second half, you can see that I've got a flying dinosaur and I need to physically hit him with Xilonen in order to get the red shred and all the other buffs. The benefit with Kazuha is that you can stand at a distance and shred the opponent's resistance, but when it comes to then again multi-wave fights, you don't want to go back to your Animo unit all the time, and this is the key difference. So with Xilonen, you tag the enemy once and in multi-wave fights you get the benefit, but with an Animo unit like Kazuha, he needs to be on field when swirling in order to get the VV shred from that artifact set. So be careful when making those comparisons. So it's very, very interesting. Against a single enemy, I don't think you're going to get much benefit, but against multi-wave targets, you'll definitely notice the difference. And this is a classic like example here. So if I wanted to shred Big Chicken's resistance and do more than 111k hits here with Citron, I would have to switch to Kazuha, and that's going to take time, and unfortunately that is less competitive. But if I just had one single boss, then you'll see there on the last floor it's not going to make that much of a difference. Regardless, so one of the things that I really like with Xilonen is that here on the second half I've got extra healing going on, so even if I get hit with the enemies and so on, I just swap to Xilonen's Elemental Burst and it is incredibly comfy. Now, we did cover C2 Xilonen in a previous video, but the TLDR is that for characters like Yae and Miko, Electro characters specifically now, like Yae, Miko and like Kujisaro with long cooldowns, long Elemental Burst cooldowns and requiring a lot of energy, you get the benefit that Xilonen C2, because it's got such a short cooldown on her E, can rapidly help you reduce the cooldown, and you can effectively get like 50 energy, so your Yae and Miko can burst as often as you want. So depending on how well you play it, and obviously I'm just goofing around here in the background, you can get some pretty impressive results, so do keep that in mind. It just shows you that with modern Genshin Impact units, they've got a lot more utility, especially in the Constellation, and it's just what it is. For instance, Kokomi versus Farina. I mean, obviously Farina's just got more in her kit. Regardless, so you can see we've got the big fat hamster. I love him, he's so adorable. And effectively, he's a good example of classic circle impact. You can get all of your buffs in. So this is a case where Kazuha versus Xilonen, you're not going to see much difference between the two of them. In fact, I think if I had C2 Kazuha, then the clearing times between the two would probably be pretty much negligible. It would just be a function of crit rate RNG. In any case, so coming here back onto the third halves, on the second halves, what you can notice is that I'm obviously using a team like Nehita and Yae Miko, which are better units for damage over time than a character like Mualani, which might probably at the C6 level instantly destroy PMA's health. And I think from that perspective, if you're really going for that like super fast speed running, Kazuha might be better, because what Kazuha does really well is reapply elements with his swirl, whereas you don't get that reapplication with Xilonen, and in certain cases just being able to enable reactions better is the advantage you have with Kazuha. So this is the thing that hopefully you guys have started picking up from what I've got to say here. Yes, both of these characters give you in essence like a res shred and an elemental damage bonus, and obviously Xilonen with constellations give you a bit more, but how you use their abilities and what combat scenarios will ultimately dictate which one you should be using. So for instance here I've got a flying dinosaur. If he flies away, all I need to do to shred his resistance is have a Yaimiko totem tag him, and I can stand at a distance, shred the resistance with Kazuha. I don't need to stand on him, but the downside is that the next enemy I'm gonna have to be on field with Kazuha. So you get grouping, you get the res shred, but there are ups and downs to the playstyle, and this is really why I think the whole debate between Xilonen and Kazuha is incredibly silly. Use the right tool for the right situations, and in fact the whole point of today's Abyss showcase is to show you that depending on what you want to do, you could actually run Xilonen on the one half, Kazuha on the other half, and you know, both of them shake hands and give you a lot of primo gems for clearing the Abyss. That I think is the ultimate conclusion. Now, one thing that I will say is that from a speedrunning perspective, things do become very different. So if you're someone that loves really hyper optimizing how you play, then the very subtleties of how these characters work can ultimately determine which one you should use over the other. So imagine we're fighting triple Kenki in the Abyss or somewhere in the overworld in an event. In a case like that, Kazuha might be preferred because with his elemental skill you can enable a trick to keep the Kenkis grouped together. So this is a very technical thing that you can do, and just the mere fact that you're doing that means that your other units can much more easily and quickly clear the Kenkis, whereas with Xilonen you will not have access to that kind of tech. So this is the subtleties in the world of speedrunning, which ultimately is very, very volatile. When it comes to clearing as fast as possible, literally having one unit, if I replace Xiongling with, let's say, C2 Klee, and I can beat the enemy in 0.5 seconds faster, then I'm sorry to say it, as much as you love Xiongling, Klee is then the meta unit because she has cleared faster. And in a certain sense, that level of volatility is something I don't like about Genshin speedrunning, and this is why I'd love instead to advocate for a playstyle which is based on consistency. Do you have teams and units that can consistently clear a variety of different challenges in the Abyss, and can you do it within a time that you are very satisfied with? And if the answer is yes, then yeah, now you've started discovering units that are quote-unquote meta. And obviously there are certain team combinations that are just more flexible than other team combinations, but from the perspective of a Kazuha versus Xilonen debate, look, both of these units from my playtesting are very flexible in a variety of teams, so I don't think there is a debate even to be had. You're going to use both of them, they're going to speedrun, they're going to do some crazy things. Even as a casual player, you will definitely find a lot of benefits from using either one or the other. Now, before we end off this video, one thing that I will say is that I'm busy testing Xilonen with Kokomi and trying to see if there are any fun and creative teams there. So if there are any, I'll obviously try and post it and give you a bit of an updated guide, because we're obviously a Kokomi mains channel. But other than that, yeah, I've been having a ton of fun with Xilonen, been using her in the overworld, trying to skate horizontally and vertically, and it's really fun to just have a different way of playing. And I think ultimately this is the one thing that I'm still want to advocate for in Genshin, is that we get more variety of endgame content and enemies that we can beat up, because this is what's going to push the longevity of the game. In any case, enough yapping, thanks for watching and have a great day everyone.